was 23 years old, I sat across a pregnant 9-year-old girl that was already being referred to as someone's wife. This was in Kilifi, Chakama. I was there as a gender advocate. My job was to distribute reusable sanitary towels and speak against early marriages. In an attempt to understand what was happening, the mothers unapologetically told us that they were forced to marry off their daughters because they could not afford to feed them. A few years back, they used to farm their land, produce enough to sell in the markets and enough to feed their household. But due to the prolonged drought, the seasonal river they were relying on dried up and they could no longer continue practicing agriculture. A few years later, and I find myself in Kitui, a region experiencing fires. In 2025, 95% of the crops dried and the remaining was swept away by flash flood. What is left is a hard crust land with very little vegetation. Then is when we realized that whatever we were trying to address was no longer a social issue, but rather an integrated issue that required intervention. So we started by empowering our women farmers to do drought-resistant farming. Once they're ready to harvest, we buy back their produce and do value addition, producing a ready-to-drink porridge blend called Nutri-Pop. Nutri-Pop is packed in 30-gram sachets. You only need to add water, hot water, let it sit for 2 minutes, stir, and it's ready to drink, and you are sure to remain full for 6 hours. This sachet retails at 13 Kenyan shillings. In our financial model, we partner with schools where the parents are advised to make payments of $6 per term, which is 3 months, to be able to ensure their kids are fed for 3 months. This is better than the traditional feeding method, where the school had to source for raw materials, a cook, a kitchen, and even firewood. This type of feeding model ensures that 75% cost is reduced from the traditional model that was used in the past. What this means is the more sachets we sell, the more land is restored and the more children remain in school. Mothers can no longer use hunger and drought as a justification for early marriages.